Rachel Tetley, author of Guardian of the Underworld. It's a children's adventure story and it's available on amazon.co.uk or amazon.com, and you can find details below the video that you're watching now. So today I'm going to show you how to make flapjack. This is a particularly sticky flapjack, so a very indulgent and naughty recipe. But so easy and totally foolproof, and it's actually going to be a very short video. So let's start with the ingredients. We're going to use butter, syrup, demerara sugar, and of course oats. So the amount that you want to use depends on the size of flapjack that you're going to make. But I'm going to make a size, that sort of size, and I normally go with just one block, a 250 gram block of butter. But my scales actually work in ounces, so I'm going to put that in and see what it works out to be. Okay. So I've got 8 ounces. Right, so 9 ounces is too much, 8.5 too little. So it's about 8 3/4 ounces. So if I go with 9, and all you're going to do is put that straight in your saucepan, and then you want to measure out 9 ounces of the demerara sugar and 9 ounces of the golden syrup as well. So whatever you want to use, but the same of those 3 ingredients. So our demerara sugar next. And that's about it there. Straight in the saucepan again. And the same again of the golden syrup. Okay. I'm nearly there. Okay, so it's got a little bit over there, I would say, but I'm not going to worry about that because it's not going to be particularly easy to scrape it out of the scales. So we're going to get a bit of waste left behind, which is just inevitable. One way of getting around that is if you put the double the weight on. Once you've weighed out your sugar, keep the sugar in your scales and then put an additional 8 3/4, 9 ounces of weights on the scales, so that you can then add the syrup to the top of the demerara sugar, and then it won't stick, obviously. But either way, there we go. And now I'm going to pop that on the heat. And you're wanting a moderate sort of heat to push it on. If it's too high, then you'll find it's tricky to stop the sugar and the sugar and the butter burning together. But equally, if it's too low, then you're just going to be there for hours waiting for it to melt. But you're looking for it to all be melted, but not necessarily for it all to be totally mixed. So it's not a problem if it's still separating a bit from the butter. And the reason for that is if you heat it to the point where it's really nicely mixed together, then when you've put it in the oven to cook afterwards, then you'll find it will go quite hard because you've heated the mixture to a sort of caramelising temperature. And because you've heated it to that point, as soon as it cools down, then it will start to go hard, which is how you would make a toffee, for example, a hard toffee. So just keep an eye on it, keep stirring it, and allow it all to completely melt, but don't worry about the separation. You want it at the point where it's just about starting to mix all together and stop separating, but not completely. Now, for me, I also love using demerara sugar. A lot of recipes, other recipes you'll find use just caster sugar or other kinds, but the thing about the nice big chunky demerara sugar is that doesn't completely break down either, so you get this really lovely, almost a bit of a crunchy texture in with your flapjack as well, and this definitely guarantees to go down very well with the family. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning is that I use one of these silicone baking trays, and the reason for that is because flapjack in particular, because it does go hard, inevitably it goes hard around the outside, even if you have not heated it to the point where it's all mixed together. It still is quite a solid outer. And so I used to always bake in these sorts of tins, but it sticks to the edges really, really badly. So I ended up being there for hours, hammer and chiselling it out to separate it away from the edges. So yeah, total nightmare. Much easier to use one of these, which I have to say I was a little bit against initially, and you do have to be very, very careful again, particularly with flapjack, because it goes very runny when it's hot, and so if you're not careful, then picking it up directly in this, it's going to start pouring out and potentially burn yourself. So always push it in something solid. So I've got it inside my other more traditional cake tin. And then it's just easy to take it in and out of the oven and move it around, and you're not going to start messing around with the contents or risk burning yourself. Okay, so this is nearly done. Just a couple more minutes needed on that. I like to wait until it's completely cool almost before I start to cut it into pieces. This recipe is good for the flapjack staying together, so it does remain nice and firm. It doesn't fall apart very easily. It's got so much syrup in it that it just holds together really, really nicely. And because you haven't overcooked it, hopefully, when it's been on the hob, it's not going to be over hard either, so it should stay in really, really nice malleable pieces. So you can afford to wait until it's pretty much completely cool before you start to cut it, and that in my view is the best time to do it. So the mixture is going to be ready now, and I'm just going to put my surface saver down. Okay, so here we go, and I don't know if you can see it from there, but that's your what you're sort of aiming for, and I think you could just see in the edge of the pan the yellow butter that had separated from the rest of the mixture, and that's absolutely fine for it to be like that. So now finally you add your oats, and I don't ever measure these out, but you want to soak up pretty much all of the liquid mixture with the oats. So give that a good mix. I don't like to cram it so full with oats that you're really struggling to cover the dry bits of oats with the mixture. So I think when you start to feel like you've had to turn the mixture 3 or 4 times just to get those last bits of oat covered, then you want to stop there. Because otherwise you are going to end up with a flapjack that's a little bit crumbly, because you haven't got enough of the mixture, that's sticky mixture, in with the amount of oats that you've got. So that's about right for me. And there you go, that's what we're looking at, and I mean that sort of gives you an idea of the consistency as well. So put that into your baking tray. Okay, and flatten it down. And you want it to be nice and flat and smooth on the surface. If you like it to be, nice and sticky right to the top. When you don't do that, you'll end up with a little bit more of a crumbly type effect on the top, and it just the mixture will start to seep out of those top bits, so they'll be a little bit drier, which may be your preference. But for me, I'd like it really, really nice and sticky right the way through. So I get it nice and flat. As you can see there, I'm not going to hold it for too long or it's going to start pouring out. Okay, so that goes in your oven now. And you're looking for that to start to turn just that little bit brown around the edges. Again, no more than that. The same with the cheesecake that I mentioned on my other video, just starting to brown on the top. I mean, I don't know what the temperature, in fact, of this oven is, because the temperature gauge actually isn't working on it. But I'm a great believer in just not needing to be too accurate with this sort of thing. Obviously it's helpful if you know what you're looking for, and hopefully I've given you some pointers on what those things that I look for, but that should be about sufficient. It's a moderate to high heat, and I would probably expect it to be in there for about 15-20 minutes, that sort of amount of time. But don't panic, if it's a bit less, a bit more, just watch for it to start to go brown. Perhaps have a look at it between 10 and 15 minutes on, so that it doesn't burn. and then when it's ready, then you need to put it somewhere on a worktop that's not going to burn, and let it completely cool, and then you can cut it up and enjoy your very, very sticky flapjack.